Marcus is 34 years old, lives in a 2-bedroom rental in Columbus, Ohio, earns $91,000 a year as a project manager, and has $47,000 sitting in a savings account earmarked for a down payment. By most measures, he's done everything right. He's patient, he's responsible, he's ready. He has been ready for 3 years. Then there's Dana. She bought a 3-bedroom house in the same metro in 2019 for $227,000. She put down 5%. Her mortgage rate locked in at 3.2%. Her monthly payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, comes to $1,140. She drives a used Honda and thinks of herself as financially cautious. Marcus makes more money than Dana did when she bought. He has more saved. He is objectively more prepared. But Marcus cannot buy Dana's house today because that same house is now listed at $389,000 with a 6.8% mortgage rate, which means his monthly payment would be $2,610. That is more than double Dana's payment. For the same walls, the same yard, the same zip code. Both of these people wanted the same thing. One of them got there before a door closed that neither of them knew existed. If you're someone who feels like you're doing everything right and still can't seem to close the gap on home ownership, subscribe and like this video. It will help more than you think. More? Here is the story most people tell themselves. Mortgage rates are high, prices are high, but rates will come down, and when they do, I'll jump in. This is a reasonable story. It is also, in important ways, the wrong story. The real problem isn't one number, it's 3 numbers compounding against you simultaneously. Think of it like a stool. The mortgage rate is one leg, the home price is the second leg, and the third leg, the one nobody talks about at the dinner table, is what I'd call the silent overhead. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, and maintenance. Each leg is independently higher than it was 5 years ago, and they're all moving in the same direction at the same time. Most buyers focus entirely on the mortgage rate. They wait for the Fed to blink. But while they're watching interest rates, prices keep climbing, up 50% since 2020 nationally. And the non-mortgage costs are quietly eating into the math. A 2025 analysis found that the average American homeowner now pays over $21,000 per year in property taxes, insurance, and maintenance alone. That's $1,750 a month before your mortgage even starts. That is the stool collapsing. This is not a crisis of information. Everyone knows housing is expensive. This is a crisis of framing. People keep looking at one leg at a time and wondering why they can't sit down. To understand what has actually changed, you need one number, 47. As of mid-2025, owning the median-priced home in the United States consumes 47% of the median household income. That's according to the Atlanta Federal Reserve's Housing Ownership Affordability Monitor, which has tracked this figure for decades. The previous peak, the one that preceded the 2008 financial crisis, was lower than where we sit right now. We are in uncharted territory. Translate that to Marcus's life. He earns $91,000. After taxes, he takes home roughly $68,000, or about $5,667 per month. A mortgage on a $389,000 home at 6.8% with 10% down comes to approximately $2,490 per month in principal and interest alone. Add property taxes, insurance, and a modest maintenance reserve, and the real monthly cost of ownership lands around $3,200. That is 56% of his take-home pay. The standard financial guideline says housing costs should stay below 30%. Marcus is not close. He is not unusual. According to the National Association of Home Builders, nearly 75% of U.S. households cannot afford the median-priced new home in 2025. 75%? That is not a minority of people being left behind. That is the rule, not the exception. Now look at Dana's situation from the inside. She is sitting on a 3.2% mortgage she would never voluntarily give up. If she sells and tries to buy something comparable, her monthly payment more than doubles. So she doesn't sell. Neither do millions of homeowners in the same position. This is the mortgage lock-in effect. And it is one of the primary reasons inventory stays so low and prices stay so high. The people who would normally be selling aren't. The people who would normally be buying can't. The market has frozen itself in place. Meanwhile, the typical first-time homebuyer is now 40 years old, according to recent data. 5 years ago, that number was 33. That is not a small shift. That is an entire chapter of life: career growth, savings accumulation, family decisions. Being pushed into a different timeline because the front door keeps moving. And the costs that moved quietly are now moving loudly. Homeowners' insurance premiums rose 11.3% in a single year. In Florida and California, the situation is more severe. Insurers are exiting high-risk markets entirely. And in some zip codes, you cannot get a policy at any price. No insurance means no mortgage. No mortgage means no purchase. Climate risk has become a credit event, and most buyers don't see it on any listing description. Here's the part that doesn't get said clearly enough. Waiting is not neutral. Every month Marcus waits and saves. He adds to his down payment. That feels like progress. But home prices in his market are appreciating at roughly 3.9% per year. On a $389,000 home, that is about $15,000 in price growth annually. His savings rate is not outpacing that gap. He is running on a treadmill that is slowly speeding up. This is what I think of as the moving target trap. The goal appears close. The effort feels real. The math just doesn't close because the target itself is retreating. And there is a psychological layer here that makes it harder. The people who bought before 2022 don't feel rich. Dana doesn't feel like she won a lottery. She just bought a house. The invisibility of good timing makes it nearly impossible to see the advantage while you have it, and nearly impossible to recover once you've missed it. This does not mean home ownership is dead. It means the old rules are dead. Buying a home in 2025 is not the same decision as buying one in 2012 or 2019. It requires a fundamentally different calculation. The people who are successfully getting in right now are not simply earning more or saving harder. They are making different choices about what the purchase is actually for. The first thing is to redefine what ready means. Most buyers set a target number, 20% down, 60 days of reserves, and wait until they hit it. That standard made sense when prices were stable and rates were low. In this market, perfect timing is rarely available. A more useful framework is minimum viable entry. What is the smallest footprint of home ownership that fits your actual financial picture without creating distress? That might be a smaller home, a different zip code, or an FHA loan with 3.5% down. The goal is to get on the asset side of the ledger, not to buy the ideal house on the first try. The second thing is to run the full ownership cost before you run the mortgage math. Take any home you're seriously considering and add up the annual property tax, the insurance premium for that specific region, and 1% of the purchase price as a maintenance estimate. Divide by 12. Add that to your projected mortgage payment. That is your real monthly cost. If it exceeds 35% of your gross monthly income, the purchase will likely create sustained financial stress regardless of how much you want it. And the third, the hardest one, is to separate the emotional timeline from the financial one. Marcus has been telling himself he needs to buy soon because he feels like he's falling behind. That feeling is real, but a distressed purchase on an unworkable budget is worse than renting for another year or two and building toward a position that actually works. The people who bought just to buy in 2022 and stretched their budgets thin are now house poor, spending half their income on a home they can't afford to furnish or maintain. Ownership without margin is not the same thing as ownership.
Marcus is still looking. He narrowed his search radius. He's considering a 2-bedroom instead of 3. He's running the full cost model on every property now, not just the monthly payment estimate on the listing site. He is not closer to buying Dana's house, but he may be closer to buying his own. The new rules of homeownership are not kind. They ask more of buyers, more patience, more precision, more willingness to let go of what the house is supposed to look like before you figured out what it needs to do. But the people who navigate this market without getting destroyed are not the ones who waited for conditions to become easy. They are the ones who stopped waiting for that and started getting honest about what they could actually carry. The door hasn't closed. It just moved. And now you know where to look. If you've crossed a milestone, saved your first $10,000, hit your down payment target, or finally ran the real numbers on a house you're considering, drop it in the comments. I read them all.